Hey there, Snake Kids. Have you ever wondered where you come from? Where we all come from? How the world and its creatures were formed? These are great big questions that might seem impossible to answer, but important to ask. If you have wondered, you are in good company because you share these questions with every human who has ever lived. In the first episode of The America's Past, we explored some of the mysteries of the Western continents and their inhabitants. In upcoming videos, we will be exploring some of the origin myths of some of the mightiest American Indian cultures of their day. One each from North America, Mesoamerica, and South America, beginning in this episode with North America and the Iroquois Confederacy. What is an origin myth? Every culture across the world has developed certain explanations for those questions I spoke of earlier that prove to be useful to their way of life. These explanations mix history with imagination and wisdom in a way that shows the people their place in the universe, tells how their lands and surrounding plants and animals were formed, and show them the best way to act in order to survive and live happily. These explanations are the origin myths, also called creation stories, and they are the first foundation of shared culture. They vary widely in complexity and scope, some involving one creator god who made everything, some many gods cooperating to form the world, some telling a story that goes back thousands of years, and some millions of years. Most of them are tied to the constellations. Storytellers that developed them would use the shapes in the night sky as a book, to help remember the course and the characters of the story, and for all the members of the tribe to look up at night and recognize the story of their people laid out above them. But the common thread between all creation stories is their ability to address those same questions that each of you has likely wondered about. The Haudenosaunee Confederacy was a nation formed of 5 tribes: the Mohawk, the Oneida, the Cayuga, the Onondaga, and the Seneca, who wandered across North and Central America and likely South America for thousands of years. There are many versions of their origin myths that differ in some details but contain common themes. These stories have been compiled by researchers like John Arthur Gibson and Kyle Delisle, from whom I have learned them. Their tale of creation is long and detailed, so I will boil it down to its themes, but you can do your own research and learn the full tale. The origin myth of the Haudenosaunee, or the Iroquois Confederacy. Long ago, before the earth was made, there was Sky World, where demigods and divine creatures lived among the stars. There was a great tree in Sky World that gave light for all the inhabitants. There was a man being named Ratisaranti and a woman being named Iakonque Karonhiakeheronon, who lived in a lodge, and the woman being had a girl child named Iotsitsison. One day, the tree began to fade, and the man being became sick and had a mysterious dream that no one of his friends could interpret. Shortly after, he died, and his friends held a feast for him, and they all gathered to try to interpret the omens of his dream. There came a stranger to the feast, a long white serpent with wings, named Kahaserine, meaning great white meteor, who interpreted the dream. He explained that in order to save Sky World, the tree must be uprooted and cast aside, and Iotsitsison must be sent downward into the hole that the great tree left when uprooted. This they did, and the great white meteor accompanied the young girl partway down to the formless, watery world below the sky. On their journey, he told her by her power would the lower world become a reflection of her home, Sky World, but that hardship and suffering would be included here for her and all this world's creatures. When Iotsitsison came down, a great turtle swam up from the depths and offered his back for her to rest upon. A muskrat dove down to bring up mud for her, with which she fashioned the world. She remained on the turtle's back, and she had a beautiful daughter, who, when grown, was married to a man. This man was the turtle in disguise, and their marriage was as the horizon, the marriage of the sky and earth. They had 2 twin boys, Tharonhiawakan, who was clever and gentle, and the other, Shawiskara, Flint, was rough with sharp stony skin. Shawiskara clawed his way out of their mother's armpit, and she died. The grandmother took the mother's head and placed it atop her lodge to remember her lovely face. She knew not how the mother had died, but she blamed Tharonhiawakan and sent him to live in a lodge on his own across the island. He continued the work of creation. Many things were made in that time, for Tharonhiawakan took corn and with its seeds made berries and fruits and many good foods to grow in the land. As they grew, Theron-Hyoakan became skilled in molding creatures and giving them life, creating gentle creatures such as the deer and many birds and the first humans. Shawiskara saw what his brother made and tried to copy him, but he was not as skilled as his brother. His attempts at deer became deadly beasts, such as great bears and wolves and saber-toothed cats. The birds he made became bats, and the humans he copied from his brother became the rough monkeys and hairy men who live in wild places. Theron-Hyoakan told his brother that Shawiskara's rough creations were not fit to live alongside his gentle daytime animals, and that they would have to exist in the nighttime. But as of yet, there was no light at night beside the stars. So Theron-Hyoakan took their mother's head and fixed it in the nighttime sky, and she became Ian-Enrines, the moon. Shawiskara's power grew in the cold darkness of the nighttime and created the winter when even the daytime would become frigid. Theron-Hyoakan decided to fight his brother to stop him from harming the world and the creatures he had labored so long to build. They fought long over all of Turtle Island, tearing up great stones and whole lands and casting them upon each other. The scars and marks of their war became the mountains and the valleys, the deserts, and the gulfs where the sea waters rushed in. But the time came that their grandmother insisted that they return to the home she descended from as a young woman, Skyworld, now that the dream of her mother's friend had been fully realized. For in Ratisaranti's prophetic dream, the dragon, Great White Meteor, had seen the world below become shaped out of the water and full of life. They prepared the red willow bark necessary for their journey and put the dried bark in their pipes and smoked. As the smoke rose past the face of the moon and far beyond, their spirits went with it, starward to Skyworld. This is just a brief summary of the creation myth of the Haudenosaunee, or Iroquois Confederacy, and you can see how interesting and strange the images it brings to mind. But they are memorable, which is very important for a story to be easily passed on. We do not know what all the details mean, for sometimes they can mean several things. Maybe one bit that doesn't make sense to you right now will when you are older. Or maybe when you hear another story from another part of the world, part of this story will make more sense. But despite the unanswered questions we have, we can certainly appreciate the creativity of ancient peoples. Keep in mind that this is just one of hundreds of creation stories that have been preserved through oral or written traditions, but many more have been forgotten over the long course of history in the Americas. In the next part of America's Past, we will learn about how the Maya of Mexico believed the world was made. And you don't need to wait for me. There's a huge collection of stories you can go and learn more about. Myths from tribes that live or once lived in the same region you now live, or tribes from faraway corners of the West. And of course, there is much left to learn. Things that no book yet contains. Things long forgotten you could discover if you are interested enough. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. What did ancient storytellers often use to help remember their stories?
Constellations.
How many tribes came together to form the Haudenosaunee?
5.
What did the Haudenosaunee believe the earth was built on top of?
The back of the turtle.